Thanks for purchasing the Hartzell DT-1725-5 Automated Rolling Machine. This short video will demonstrate how to unpack the machine and then set it up and calibrate it so it'll work at its best. For complete details, please use the maintenance manual included in your purchase. Hartzell Technical Representative Kevin Ryan travels the world to teach technicians about the latest advancements in aviation technology. Today, he'll teach you.
Hello, the purpose of the video today is to show you how to unpack, set up, and run your first test piece on a DT-1725-5 automated rolling machine. After you receive the machine, move the machine to its approximate final location and begin to unpack it. The unpacking instructions are right here on the front of the box.
In addition to standard hand tools, the following tools are necessary when removing the automated rolling machine from the crate. A 3/16" Allen wrench, a torque star driver with a T25 bit, and a utility knife.
I'm going to get Corey and Walker to help me take this out of the box. All right, after all the packing materials have been removed, the final piece of packing that needs to be removed is this piece of tape has to be taken off the oil air booster, and the shipping bracket needs to be removed. With the machine in the location where it's going to be used, the next step is to level the machine. We're going to be using the base plate here, and we will be leveling the machine vertically and horizontally using the base plate and leveling it using the feet on the bottom of the machine. The machine will be leveled by adjusting the nut just above the foot. Once the machine is in the proper location and is leveled, then you'll tighten the jam nut up against the machine frame.
In order to properly set up and calibrate the rolling machine, you'll need these tools and parts in addition to standard hand tools. You'll find the list on page 1-7 in your maintenance manual. A position gauge, force gauge, the hardware kit for mounting the force gauge, a torque wrench adapter included with the machine, a 1/2" drive torque wrench, a practice roll or setup specimen, a locally procured power cord, and an air supply.
So to open the fuse panel, you'll need to loosen these two screws and then pull the clips back, which allows the door to open. Inside we'll find the fuse panel, and you'll see this fuse block. This fuse block here is in the 110 to 127 volt position. This will be the position of the fuse block as the machine is shipped. If your local power is 220 to 240, you'll need to move this fuse block from this location to this location. So to move the fuse block, just grasp it, twist it, pull it out, and put it in the 220, 240 position. If there's a machine malfunction of one type or another, it may be one of these fuses. And to check the fuses, just extract the fuse block and open it. There's a small bus fuse inside. You can check to see if the fuse is still good or not. Replace the fuse, close the block, and reinstall the block in its proper location. The next thing is to access the electrical power connection boxes. And to do that, we need to remove this panel. Once the panel's removed, locate the two power boxes. This box over here is 100 volts to 127 volts. This box over here is 220 to 240. So depending upon your local power supply, you'll either remove the cover from either this box or this box. Next step is to attach the power cord. There's two choices. You can either supply a power cord like this. This power cord is not supplied with the machine because the electrical outlets are different all over the world. You'll need to locally procure a power cord. An alternative is just to hardwire the supply in your shop directly into the box. So I've pulled my power cord up through the grommet on the bottom of the box, and I'm ready to wire the power cord to the terminals. No matter which set of boxes you're working with, it's the same in both sides, either the 110 to 127 or the 220 to 240 box. You've got supply, common, and ground. They're in the same locations, just in another box. So my supply line here is black, and I'll connect it down here on the bottom of the terminal. And to do that, I need a small screwdriver. Loosen up the screw slightly, take the wire, and insert it into the terminal. There we go. Beauty. Now we'll replace the plate. And then we'll reinstall the panel. And then we'll connect the air supply. Once again, you can use either a quick disconnect like this, or this could be hard plumbed into your shop air supply. Now we're ready to apply power to the machine and put it through its calibration steps. So the first thing, we need to go to the power switch down over here and switch this to on. It'll take about 30 seconds or so for the screen to start up. Right, so after the machine is initialized, you'll get this yellow bar that lights up, says press power to begin. First of all, we're going to want to make sure that our e-stop has not been pushed in, so I'm going to pull it out, and it should click if it was in, and then I'll press power to begin. Since we're going to be calibrating the machine, we're going to run the setup menu, and that brings up a login screen. So you need to put in the user and the password. The user is in the manual, as is the password, but the user is Hartzell, and the password is built on honor. So we'll hit on the user bar here. That brings up this keypad. We'll type in Hartzell. So now that I've entered the user and the password, I'll press OK. And then setup menu once again. I'll get this warning screen. I'll read it and then press OK. The machine starts to move automatically. Once the homing sequence is completed, then we get to the setup menu. And you can just follow the items on the list as they're written. So the first item we'll do is the first item on the list, which is the relative home set. We'll press that button. And there's a message here that says the system positions to safe positions are moving in auto. I'll say OK. So to perform the relative home set calibration, we'll need to install the calibration tool. And to do that, just open the door, install the tool in the chuck, and with a torque wrench, we're going to tighten the chuck to 60 foot-pounds. Now the tool's installed, so I'm going to check the Y carriage location. And there's two ears on this tool. One's marked no-go and one's marked go. So I'll put it in the no-go position underneath the roller and press the roller down. And ideally, I want the roller to hit just like it is now. So it's hitting the no-go gauge. Now I'll turn it to the go side. And once again, I'll depress the roller. And it's hitting on the go side. So that tells me I need to adjust the Y carriage. So I'll go back over here to the menu. So I'm going to hit this arrow. And that moved the carriage back just a little bit. And I'll give it another try and see if I'm touching on the go side. Still hitting. So I have to move it back a little bit further. Try it again. I'm passing. The roller wheel is moving down just behind the gauge, which is exactly what I want. Now I'll turn the gauge just to be certain, and it should hit on the no-go side. And it is. So my Y carriage position is properly set. So I'll hit the Set Carriage Y button. I want to reposition the tool to this position because when I go to switch to the X side, this head's going to move, and I don't want the head to impact the tool. And then I'll hit Check Carriage X. And once again, I'm going to use the go, no-go gauge. So I'll turn it to the no-go side, and it's passing, which is not what I want. It should hit on the no-go side and pass on the go side. So my carriage is up too high. So I want to drop the carriage down a little bit. So I'll hit the down arrow. And see what I get. I've adjusted it, and now I am just hitting on the no-go side. I'll switch it to go, and I should just pass over the go side. So my X carriage is now in the proper position. So I'll hit Set Carriage X. Once I've completed this, it will show my carriage Y position that I saved and the carriage X position that I saved over here on the menu. The next step is the applied force setup. So we'll hit this button, select OK. We'll install the force gauge. This force gauge is not supplied with the machine. You can either purchase your own force gauge or get one from an outside source. We do supply a kit for mounting, or we can also supply you with the drawing so you can make your own mounting kit. So now we're just going to install it on the machine. Before we install it on the machine, you want to make sure that these plastic sleeves down here are in good condition. They're not frayed or have holes in them. Place it over the roller. I'm putting in the screws. And then just snug these screws up. And then I'll turn on the gauge. Zero the gauge out. Then I'll push the green bar here, push for roller on. So I'll push and hold it and watch my gauge. When the gauge stabilizes, I'll take the reading off the gauge. And I'm showing 240. My target setting is 250 plus or minus 2. So what I'll need to do here, I'll have to reset my set PSI. To do that, I take my set PSI, which is 1750, and I divide that by 240, which was the number I got on my gauge, and then multiply that times 250. And that gives me 1,822. So I'll reset the set PSI to 1,822 and hit enter. Once again, I'll zero my gauge, press and hold. And I'm showing 251. I'm looking for 250 plus or minus 2, so I'm within tolerance. Now, if I was out of tolerance just a little bit, for every 7 psi I add to the set psi value, it gives me 1 pound force on the gauge. So if I need to move up and down a pound or two, I can do that just by adding 7 psi or reducing it by 7 psi to get the number a little closer.
With the force calibration now complete, remove the force gauge and associated bracket before proceeding to the next steps.
The next calibration step is the transducer setup. So we'll hit the transducer setup button. And these settings here are based on the calibration paperwork which is included in the machine. It's inside the door of the fuse access. And you'll have a piece of paper that looks something like this. The pressure transducer is a 0 to 3,000 psi transducer. So the settings you put in are sensor voltage at 0. On your calibration paperwork, it says pressure PSIG 0 is 0.004 VDC. So I'll change this to 0.004, enter. Sensor voltage at span, what that is that's going to be at the max PSI, 3,000 PSI. So I find on the paperwork at 3,000 PSI, it should be 4.981. So hit here, and I'll put in 4.981. Enter. Sensor pressure at span. That's at max PSI, 3,000 PSI. So I want to make sure my sensor pressure at span reads 3,000 PSI. And I'm finished. The final setting is to set the date and time. So we'll press date and time. And this date and time is set correctly for today. I just want to note the format. The format is the month, the date, the year, and then the time. So if I want to change it, I just push here, and then I can input the month, the date, the year, and then the time. And when I'm finished, hit enter. Then back to the setup menu, and I'm ready to go. So now that we've finished with the calibration steps, we can get ready to roll our test piece. To do that, we need to return to the main menu. So our final step is to run the test piece. So we'll go back to the main menu, and we'll select the Run menu. And the first item we're going to select is the blade selection. Now, what we have here is I just have a cut-off Y-shank blade that's going to be our test piece. And because it's a Y-shank blade, I'm going to select from the blade selection menu the Y and D button. It says, do I want to load Y and D? Yes, I do. Now, the machine will home. And now it's ready for me to install the test piece. So I'll take the test piece, I'll apply some light lubricant on the blade shoulder. And place it in the chuck. And once again, I'll tighten the chuck to 60 foot-pounds. For the next step, I'll need to close the door. The machine will not run if the door isn't closed. I'll close the door and I'll hit the green cycle start button. Before it lets me start, I need to put in the operator's name, the blade serial number, the blade part number, and your work order. I'm going to put in just some random things here so we can continue, but you can do that in your shop. After I get that information entered, I'll just put OK. And the machine will run automatically. It has 239 seconds to go. Once the rolling process is completed, you'll get this message that says automatic mode part complete. Select OK, and you can open the door. And remove the part from the chuck. Remove the part from the machine, clean off the oil, and turn in your test piece for evaluation by Hartzell. Once your evaluation has passed, you'll receive your rolling machine certificate and you're free to continue rolling blades with your new machine.
If you have any questions about the setup or installation of your machine, contact Hartzell Propeller Product Support as seen here. Information is also included on page 9 of the maintenance manual. Hartzell Propeller, for over 100 years, built on honor.